Hello and welcome to another Intro to Programming and Database tutorial. In this tutorial we will going to be exploring decision making in programming. When we use the word decision making, it's very much related to the concepts that we use in our real life. For example, if it is raining out there, I use the word if. It is raining out there, I'll take the umbrella. If it is not raining out there, I will not gonna take the umbrella. If my gas tank is getting empty, I'm gonna go to the nearby gas station and fill up some gas. If it is not, then I will going to be taking my road trip. If this happens, I'll do this, otherwise I'll do that. So if otherwise, those are the kind of decisions that we make in our real life. And that's exactly what we do in computers. For example, if I score more than 90% on this quiz, I will going to get an A. Or if I earn $600 this week, then I will be able to save $300. Those are the kind of decisions that are being made using if condition. And there are far more other decisions that we make that use if conditions. Before we start looking in detail into if conditions, we're now going to look at the set of operators that we use in if condition. Now here's the list of the set of operators that we're going to be using for conditional or comparison. The list of the operator includes greater than or equal to, less than or equal to, and not equal to. These are the 6 operators that we use are considered to be conditional or comparison operators. They're used in comparing quantities. For example, if you're looking at the example over here for greater than, 5 greater than 3, of course this is a true statement, or -6 greater than -10. On the negative numbers, the closer you are to the 0, the larger the number it is. Similarly, is 5 greater than or equals to 5? Yes, it is not greater than, but it is equals to. Is 10 greater than or equals to 5? Yes, it's not equals, but it's greater. Similarly, is -9 greater than or equals to -88? Yes, -9 is greater. Likewise, we have examples for less than, 5 less than 6, or 4 less than or equals to 5. Similarly, we have examples for equal to, which is 5 equals to 5, or -10 equals to -10. Similarly, we have not equal to, which is 8 not equals to 10, or -10 not equals to 2, or -1 not equals to -2. So these are the operators that we use in programming whenever we want to put a condition on set of values. For example, when you try to log into using your username and password, sometimes it might have happened that the web page sends a response back to you and say, well, the username and password don't match. So what basically it does, it runs a condition behind the scene that if this is the username, this must be the password. If this username and this password combination is not to be found behind the scene, then reject the user login. So that's a decision-making process. So these are the kind of decisions that we make in everyday life. When you go to the ATM, which is automatic teller machine, and you try to withdraw the money, it checks to see the amount that you're withdrawing. You actually have at least that much in your account. So those are the kind of decisions that can be made using an if condition. Sometimes we need to make more than one conditions. For example, if we may have a choice, I want to take classes on Wednesday night, but the problem is, since I'm so late in the process, if there is a room available in the Java class, I'm going to take the Java class. If the Java class course section is filled, I'm going to check to see if there is another Java class course section available. If that is not the case, then I'm going to take a class in Visual Basic. So I have 3 statements. If this happens, or that happens, or that happens. That means if either of the 3 options are available, I'm a happy camper. So those kind of conditions we consider under logical operators. So logical operators are 3, and, or, and not. And operators are used between multiple conditions, so or, and not is used pretty much to negate a condition. So and requires all conditions to be true for and to be true. For example, if you go out shopping and you say, okay, I want to go and buy a shirt and pants. So you want both because you use the word and. Or I want to buy a cell phone and a case. That means you use an and. I want to buy hot dogs and a pop, so you used an and. You want both. On the contrary, if you use or, I want a blue shirt or a white shirt. I want an Apple iPhone, or I will going to settle for Android. So you're using an or in here. Similarly, not negates the condition. For example, if the phone number is not found, then I'm going to display the message to the user that phone number not found. So those are the kind of logical operators that we deal with in programming. So and is used between a lot of conditions, and if all conditions are true, only then and will be true. For example, if you are junior and you got a grade of C or better, only then you will going to be able to enroll in the following class. So if any of the two conditions is not fulfilled, if you're not a junior, or if you're a junior but the prerequisite you got a grade below C, then you won't be able to enroll for the class. Similarly for or, well, of course you have a choice between, and if you have any of the two conditions good, you will be able to fulfill the condition. So that's the or, and the not pretty much negates the condition. Now when we talk about conditions, let's move on to the next slide. So conditional statements are considered to be block statements or block structures. What does that mean in programming? Well, generally, what you have been writing this far have been sequential statements. That means you have statements running one after another that allows you to display in sequence. Your logic has been sequential. Statement number one will always going to be coming after statement number two, before statement number two, and statement number two will always come before statement number three. Statement number three will always come before statement number four, and all of them are going to run in sequence. In conditional statements, you have conditions. Once you take one route, then the other route is not available to you. For example, if you're in an expressway and you have a decision to take I-94 or I-294. If you take I-94, then you go on I-94 until you can get back on I-294. So once you make a decision, then you follow that route. Or if you're going on an expressway where there's a split of 90 and 94, you take 90 and now you do not take 94. So those are the kind of decisions that we make in decision statements. It's not really sequential. Once you make a decision, you got to follow that route. So if you have two job opportunities, you can pick only one of the two, and whichever one you pick, you got to leave the other. So that's what basically the conditional statements do. So they give you a block of state structure. What basically that means is you can write more than one instructions or statements inside this block. So any statement that allows you or could consist or contain one or more statements or instructions is considered to be block. This is the first block statement that you're going to be coding, but in the past, you have seen some block structures, like when you went in and coding in the console environment, there was a main method. So main method is actually a block because it has a beginning and an end. Similarly, when we talk about class, which you probably might have seen in the console environment or the form environment, notice next time you're there, the very last line says end class. So that's also a block statement. In VB, or in general, in programming, we have two kinds or two types of conditional statements. One is considered to be if, and one is considered to be select case or switch case based on the language of your choice. So if you are doing VB, it's called select case. If you're doing C, C++, JavaScript, Perl, C#, Java, it's called a switch case. So, but these are the two different variations. So this week, we're only going to be looking at if conditions. Next week, we're going to be looking at select case or switch case. So let's look at the if condition variations for the day. So when we talk about if conditions, there are four possible types of if conditions. One is a simple if condition, and there is no else to it. There is no otherwise to it. You do it or there is no option out. That's called an if condition. If else condition is basically you have two sets of conditions. If you do this, if this doesn't work out, then you have a plan B, which is your else. So instead of using the word otherwise, which we generally use in English, we rather use the word else here. So if else, if this plan doesn't work out, else I'm going to do this. Then if you have more than two conditions to bank on, for example, if I score more than or equals to 90, then I'm going to get an A. If that is not the case, if I get 80 or more, I'm going to get a B. If I get 70 or more, I'm going to get a C. If I get anything less than that, I'm going to be an F. So these are 4 sets of conditions. So in those kind of cases, you're going to be using if else, which is basically the third item in the list. So 1 condition, 2 conditions, and more than 2 conditions. And finally, the last category is called a nested if. What nested if is like, there are 2 conditions where one is dependent on the other. For example, if you've ever filled out the financial aid forms, you probably would have noticed they ask you a lot of questions spread out in a lot of forms, and there are a lot of conditions which are dependent on each other, that if you belong to this income bracket, and if you have these many dependents, and if this is true, and if this is true, if all these conditions come out to true, only then they will going to grant you this much money. Otherwise, you may have to go with an alternate route. So dependencies. If you work for department number 40, if you are a manager, only then you are going to be getting this commission. So if you work for department 40 but you're not a manager, then you are going to have a different set of commission. So we're going to be learning about these concepts as this week progresses, as to when we use nested if, when we use an and things of that nature. So this is just a brief overview to get you started about the concepts that we're going to be covering this week. Hope you would have enjoyed this tutorial. Catch you in the next one. We're going to be learning about the flowcharts, the pseudocodes, and eventually how to write code in VB. Thank you for watching.